I mostly want to focus on the lyricism piece, right? His definition of lyricism and why it's bullshit. Like, bruh, like, just, oh my God. Like, his definition of lyricism is bullshit. I'll say it right now. And the issue I have with it isn't just that I disagree with it. It's because of how he tries to frame it. That's what I really don't like. He tries to frame it as if it's like what he's saying is like an objective fact. You know what I mean? Which I don't like that at all, because it's very easy to disprove what he says here. So I'm going to press play. So Company Man's going to ask him a question about what is lyricism? How do you define lyricism? Right? I'll play it so you get the full context.
Okay, I'll take a pause. Lou, you've had a lot of lyrical conversations, or conversations that involve what lyricism is and isn't to a degree over the past week, but also I think just through your work as an MC and also with MIT and Johns Hopkins and those things. When you hear the word lyricism, or when you're speaking about lyricism, what are you generally focusing on?
As it relates to rap, punches and bars. Punches, punchlines, bars, similes, entendres.
1 second pause. Now, what is it?
You know what? There's a second. I will say this, right? There are some problems with this Culture United video. However, I do really like this follow-up question he asked. I do like that he didn't just leave it alone. He didn't just let him say, oh, punchlines, whatever. He's going to ask him why. Why punchlines? Like, why do you emphasize that? And then this is the part I hate the most.
What is it about those particular literary devices that you seem to prioritize when it comes to rap?
Because when you go back and you look through the history of rap, and you look at individual MCs, groups, what have you, talking from 79 and prior to 79, all the way up through to now, through the 80s, there's always been a premium put on punchlines.
Cap. It's not true. There's never been a premium on punchlines. Punchlines aren't regarded as a special category, special from all the other categories. It's one of the categories, and it's a dope category when punchlines are done right. We love punchlines, right? When punchlines are done right, we love punchlines. But to say from 79, punchlines are at a premium, it's cap. We like punchlines, but punchlines are never at a premium. Never at a premium. How do I prove this? Right? Keep in mind, he said when he studies. Let me just let him finish.
There's always been a premium on setup, reveal. Other things are in that. But I think as it relates to rap, me, the what's on the pedestal, what is practice, and what kind of sets you apart from other MCs in a cypher space and an acapella space, and even in on beats and on songs, is your punchlines. And so that's how I was trained. That's how I was influenced. And when I was able to go back and really study rap, the craft objectively, that's what I found.
Was that your boss?
When I was able to study the craft objectively. So he said what? From 79, right? We're talking Rapper's Delight. Rapper's Delight, right? From Rapper's Delight, one of the first hip hop songs ever recorded and released, we put punchlines at a premium. That's cap, bro. It's cap. It's not true. And he said when he studied it objectively. That's what pisses me off more. If he just says, I like punchlines a lot, therefore I rate rappers more based on the amount of punchlines and entendres they have, I could respect that a little bit. I still disagree with that kind of ranking system, but I could at least respect it if he's like, oh, that's just my opinion. But it's the false objectivity that I don't like. This whole when I studied it objectively. Because if you studied it objectively, what do you find? you find a whole variety of rappers from the beginning until today. What I don't like about this categorization, the way he's categorizing what is important and what makes a lyricist, is that it's so narrow. And it's false. It's not true. It's Tupac Shakur. Technically, he started in the late 80s. Tupac was rapping in the late 80s. Is he a punchline rapper? No. Some of them were punchline rappers, right? Biggie had punches. Big L, a little later down the line, had punches. Lord Finesse had punches. Again, like I said, Cool G Rap, Big Daddy Kane had punches. But that's not all. It was never seen as the factor, right? Rakim wasn't a punchline rapper. He had punches here and there, here and there, but he wasn't like a punchline. Because when I think punchline rapper, I'm thinking Big L, right? Big L. Pun, you could put Pun in there. Maybe dudes like Cameron, you could say, had punches. Like in terms of dudes that used it or rappers that used them frequently, I would name those people as like punchline rappers. Run DMC, they didn't have no punchlines. Melly Mel, they didn't have no punchlines. Right? We didn't know them for punchlines, but we still respect them, right? Whether you want to listen to music that's, old school or not, you gotta, if you're in the hip hop space, you have to respect them, right? They still laid the foundation, the groundwork. But to act like it was the punchlines that separated all of those people from the other artists, and that's what made them lyricists, is false. It's false. Master Ace, he started doing punchlines a little bit later, like kind of like, I think into the 90s and 2000s, he started doing punches. But earlier on, he wasn't really like a puncher. If you listen to the early Juice Crew stuff, it wasn't really like crazy similes and stuff. I'll give that to Cool G Rap in them, but not like that for Master Ace. So, and these are all artists I've listened to actively, right? But like to say, oh, like we put punchlines at a premium, it's not true. Tupac is considered one of the greatest rappers of all time, writing wise even. Forget about the image, forget about the beat selection, forget about the features and the hooks, forget about the California love, even just writing wise. A lot of people consider Tupac to be one of the best rappers, right? If not the best, according to a lot of people, right? Depending on what generation you're from, different factors, your preference, whatever. But overall, we all know Tupac is a big deal, right? So if Pac was a big deal and we considered Pac a lyricist, which a lot of people do consider Pac a lyricist, some people like to go against that fact. But if I think, in my opinion, truly Pac was a lyricist because he wrote lyrics that were very effective and that hit you in certain ways, that were very direct, straight to the point, and he was very effective at writing and at rapping. Do punchlines become what Lupe is claiming, right? i.e. at a premium, right? In reality, punchlines have always been one aspect of rap. It's one aspect of rap. And yes, in a battle rap setting, especially today, in battle rap, punchlines are even more important than they used to be in battle rap. I would even argue that the dominance of punchlines in battle rap have watered down battle rap because people noticed, oh, these things are effective, and then everybody starts overdoing it. Then they start reaching, and then they start doing all this extra shit. And that's why battle rap, in part, there's a lot of different factors to why battle rap is in a weird state right now, that are tied to economics and different factors within the battle rap culture. However, one aspect I would say, content-wise, writing-wise, is punchlines. It's punchlines. Because people started overdoing punchlines. And then it got to the point where like punchlines don't mean anything anymore. You know what I mean? And now rappers are almost expected to just have random punchlines, right? But then overall writing, in terms of like storytelling and whatever, gets downplayed. There's still people that are really good at that, that get shine, and they can mix that in with the punches and do a good job. Like I'm thinking like Jay the Nightwing, Loaded Lux, like certain rappers that like punch, but they still do a lot more conceptually. Jazz the Rapper, Hollow the Don, you know, they're punching, but there's a lot of different things going on. And so for Lupe to act like, you know, lyricism is punching and double entendres, I'm like, are you serious? Like, to act like that's lyricism, punching and double entendres. That's lyricism. And then he goes, oh, the other things are in there. What do you mean the other things are in there? The other things are also foundational. They're on the same level as punchlines, right? And you want to know how I know that this is kind of bullshit? Or really just, it's not even kind of bullshit, that it is bullshit, is because one of Lupe Fiasco's favorite rappers is Scarface. Let me just Google it real quick. One of Lupe's favorite rappers. Yes, Scarface is a highly respected MC who has earned significant praise from Lupe Fiasco. While Lupe's personal top 5 and top 10 lists historically lean heavily Nas, Black Dot, Doom, he has consistently spoken highly of Scarface as a foundational legend and master storyteller. And I remember another source saying when he was a kid, he listened to Scarface. Even like this had to do with the whole Tribe Called Quest fiasco. No pun intended. From back in the day, where like he forgot like the tribe lyrics or whatever, and then they pulled up an interview where he said something like he mentioned it in this. I'm not gonna play it because I ain't got time to listen to the whole thing, but. Scarface. He mentioned Scarface as one of his favorite rappers before. So, is Scarface a punchline rapper? Hell the fuck. No. Scarface is not a... Scarface is peak storytelling. Peak storytelling is Scarface. Is Andre 3000 a punchline rapper? No. He might have a punchline here and there, like a simile or something here and there, but he's very storytelling, very conceptual, cerebral writing style. Kind of abstract even. But he's not a punchline rapper, right? Not a punchline rapper at all. I wouldn't like that. Just because someone has some punches doesn't mean they're a punchline rapper. So I can see why he wouldn't rate Kendrick that high on the list of lyricists if his description of lyricism is that narrow, right? Because that's a very narrow description of lyricism, right? Now, the problem is, and the question we have to ask that we can't get an answer to, at least not yet, and something that I don't even like to speculate on is why is it that he's making it that narrow? Why? And to be honest, I think it's in part because he's pigeonholed himself. I think he's basically put it out there, right? He said something about Kendrick Lamar for whatever reason, right? I'm not gonna sit here and try to be his therapist and speculate about, if he's jealous or envious or whatever. I don't care about that stuff. Me personally, I don't give a shit about that because I don't know Lupe personally. I don't know Kendrick personally. If they got a personal issue, I don't know, right? If he's envious, whatever, that's a him problem. It has nothing to do with me. But it is weird that now that you've said, oh, all these people are better than Kendrick, that now you're forced to basically have a definition that does its best to exclude him from the conversation, right? Notice he didn't say storytelling. Imagine talking about rap and what makes rap good and not talking about storytelling. That's fucking crazy. And I'm pretty sure in the past he said he does think Kendrick is a good storyteller. But then the question is, why are you now not mentioning it at all? Because of the situation you're in. So I feel like it's because of the situation he's in that he's not mentioning storytelling. But he knows in his right mind, right? I know Nas. I know he thinks Nas is a great rapper. He ends up downplaying Nas too, but that's because of his ridiculous definition of what lyricism is. In the past, he said Nas is one of his favorite rappers, right? Which the influence is undeniable there. We can see that in terms of some of Lupe's work, especially his earlier work. And Nas was what? A punchliner? Hell the fuck no. Nas has never been a punchliner. He's not known for punchlines. That doesn't mean he doesn't have any punchlines, but he's not a punchline rapper. But he's a phenomenal storyteller and writes really well a lot of the time, right? That much we know is true. Whether you're a big fan of Nas or not, you can't deny that. You can't even try to deny that. Just off the strength of Illmatic alone. Illmatic, it was written Stillmatic. You know, some of the the stuff he did with Hit Boy, like we know he can go, and we know he's considered one of the best rappers alive, right? Or ever, even. Forget about even alive, dead or alive. So with that in mind, like that's what makes this weird, and that's what makes it so that now people are bringing up other shit, right? Now people are bringing up things about, oh, is he jealous? Is he this? Is he that? You know? And he's not helping himself here. like you're not helping yourself, bro. The other thing I didn't like, and this is something I don't like on both sides of some of these arguments, but I'll start with Lupe since that's what we're talking about right now. I don't like how he's trying to argue from a point of authority. When I say arguing from a point of authority, what I'm talking about is, you know, how when he went on Koala T's show, he's trying to be like, oh, what have you done to Koala T? He's saying this to Koala T, like, oh, what have you done? Right? You haven't done this show. You haven't done, but it has nothing to do. That's nothing to do with what we're talking about. If you want to argue from a point of view of accolades, that has nothing to do with the conversation we're talking about. You brought up lyricism, right? Based on your definition of lyricism, you're like, okay, Kendrick there's 200 other rappers better than Kendrick, and I'll get to that point at some point, right? There's 200, right? According to him, right? Which really weird way to phrase that, my nigga. Like, really weird way to phrase that, bro. Because it doesn't come off right. It doesn't come off right, bruh. It doesn't come off right. It really doesn't, man. Because it's like, you didn't need to say that. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't need to say that. I almost hiccuped. You didn't need to say that, bro. You could have just been like, yeah, he's not in my top 10, and then moved on. Like, in terms of lyricism, and then just moved on, right? We still would have asked you questions, but once you're starting to like double down and be weird about it, then it's like, okay, bro, you're being kind of extra, bro. You're being extra. And that's the problem I have with this whole situation, is he's being very extra. And right now, with this interview, you can see it, right? Where he's like, oh, punches, similes, and entendres, or whatever he said. Knowing damn well that's way more than that, bro. He knows this. Like, there's no way you're telling me Lupe Fiasco, who's a fucking professor talking about rap, doesn't know there's other things that are also extremely important and just as important as punches and entendres when it comes to what lyricism is, right? When it comes to lyricism, it's way more than that. We all know this. It's way more than punchlines. I could listen to a rapper that has little to no punchlines and consider them a great lyricist. Tupac is a perfect example of that. He wasn't a punchline guy. And I don't want punchlines from him, right? Because for some people, they just don't need to do punchlines because it comes off as forced if you try to force yourself to do punchlines, right? Perfect example, even in battle rap, there's a battle rapper named Goods, Goodz or Z, and he's not a punchline rapper, and he's made it his thing that he's not a punchline rapper, and he's been very successful in the battle rap space without punches. And there's other battle rappers like that. Now, punches have become more dominant in battle rap in recent years, and like I said before, I think that's actually kind of watered down the sport, is because everybody's trying to force punchlines instead of just like rapping. You know what I mean? So everyone's trying to do some extra shit, like, you know, weird wordplay, and like sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's like, bro, like this is completely unnecessary, like wholly unnecessary, bro. So that's what makes all of this weird, is like he's kind of pigeonholing himself, and it's just getting worse and worse. And to add to this, what I don't like from the other side is when people do what he did to Koala T to him, right? Because what we're not going to do is use his same logic in trying to derail the subject matter about, in terms of what it's actually about, and say shit like, oh, well, Kendrick, you know, won the Pulitzer, or Kendrick won Grammys and did whatever. So that's why your point is invalid, right? We're not going to do that, right? Because there are tons of people who have won Grammys and have won different awards for different things that didn't deserve it, right? Macklemore won a fucking Grammy at one point, you know what I mean? Over Kendrick, right? So I don't want to use that because I don't fuck with the industry. Like, I don't support the industry. And me personally, I think award shows are really just the industry rewarding people for making them money, right? It's just about money. Like, so if someone like Kendrick wins, who isn't just about money, then that just means they're gonna jump on that bandwagon and milk it for as long as they can, as long as he's making the money, right? The industry just bandwagons. That's all they do, because they're like, where's the money? We're gonna chase the money. So if you're doing something that's working, then they're gonna try to reward you because you made Universal X amount of money or whatever, right? If award shows were legitimate, it wouldn't be about how much money you're making. It wouldn't be about popularity. If award shows were about content, they would hire teams of people to just listen to every hip hop album, every jazz album, every any genre, pick a genre, and then they would listen to all of them within that span of that year and be like, oh, we felt like the quality of these were the best, so that's why this is getting put in this category. If it was really about music and not about industry bullshit, right? Now, someone like Kendrick has been able to still make good music and like be in that sphere, but I'm not gonna sit here and act like I support the industry just because I like his music. That's two different things, right? That's two different things. I support his music because I think he makes a lot of dope music, and it ends there. In terms of whether the industry wants to reward him or not, that's their problem. And I think more of us should see it that way, because the industry is on some bullshit a lot of the time, right? So what I'm not gonna do is be like, oh well, you know, Lupe, you said you're a better lyricist than him, and or all these people are better lyricists than him, but you're wrong because he won an award. No. Let's not argue from a position of authority and accolades, because that doesn't do anything, right? Because if we argue from that point of view, then that means when Lupe did that to Koala T, that he was right too, right? And he wasn't right. Like, he wasn't right. And I just showed you why. Because even his claim of, oh, like when I studied hip hop or rap objectively, this is what I found, is false. It's not true. So if the foundation of the entire statement you made is non-existent, right? Because that's not a foundation, right? Oh, what is lyricism? It's punches and entendres. What? That's a really bad definition of lyricism. Very bad, very poor. Now, there's always going to be an element of subjectivity, right, to how a person understands lyricism and what they enjoy about a person's bars and raps. However, some are better than others, and this is one of the worst ones I've ever seen, right? Because I don't even support the whole, let me just go on Google and search what lyricism is, and then it's something like, evoking emotion or something. Like, even that I don't support, because I'm like, yeah, that's one aspect of it, but it's not every aspect, especially when we're talking about rap, right? Because I think the hip hop community has created its own unique definition or definitions of what lyricism is, right? And there's always going to be a variety of definitions, and that's cool. But this is by far one of the worst ones, right? And even his own man, Mickey Factz, disagrees with him, right? After this point, Mickey's like, I disagree with Lupe. I don't think it's just punches and entendres. And Mickey's talking about like internal rhymes as the foundation, which I even disagree with that. But I love internal rhymes, but that I don't think that's the foundation. But you know, again, everyone has their opinion. So he's like, internal rhymes the foundation, and then punchlines, and then whatever else he adds to it. And he has like a whole plethora of things that he mentions as like, this is lyricism to me. And his I can at least respect because he's at least talking about more of the aspects and not downplaying them. Whereas Lupe is kind of on some like, it's just punches. It's just punches and entendres. Like, what are we doing, Lupe? Like, come on, man. Come on. You're doing too much at this point, bro. You're doing too much, man. Like, just leave it alone, dog. Like, just leave it alone, right? Like, the only part of what he said prior to this podcast that I was okay with was when he said, or that I at least respect, was when he said Kendrick is a better artist than him, right? The better artist than him in terms of like beat selection, overall package, in terms of like just how everything is put together artistically. I can respect him for saying this person is better than me at that, right? So then what he's trying to do now is focus on one technical aspect, which is, according to him, lyricism. But then when you ask him what his definition of lyricism is, it's trash. Like, it's a horrible definition that basically he has to stick to in order to justify what he said prior to this interview. He has to stick to this now because he's pigeonholed himself because he was saying too much. He was doing too much, right? Because if you're going to say Rosenberg Raw is better than Kendrick Lamar, if you're going to say Rosenberg Raw, who I fucks with, like, Rosenberg is one of my favorite battle rappers. Since the first battle I seen, him versus QP, this was on Ultimate Rap League, URL. Him versus QP, clean paper on URL. One of my favorite battles. That was one of the first. That's when they used to do like what they call PG battles or proving grounds, basically, where they would have newer talent come in. I remember seeing Rosenberg versus QP, and they both killed it too. Clean was dope. He was dope. And I was a fan of both of them at the exact same time because they both had battles coming out at that exact same time. And I was like, yo, I fucks with these dudes. So I fucks with Rosenberg. So don't get it twisted. Especially as a battle rapper. Like, musically, like, you know, I've heard some stuff from him. It's cool. But I wouldn't say he's more of a lyricist than Kendrick Lamar. Definitely not on a beat, right? But then the problem is if you want to say, he's more, if you count his battle raps where there is no beat and say, he's more lyrical because of his battles, then the problem there is it's a whole different format. Like, battlers, you can for anyone that follows battle rap, and if you don't follow battle rap, if you know who Rum Nitty is, Rum Nitty, RUMNITTY, Rum Nitty, He is one of the best battle rappers and considered one of the best battle rappers. And phenomenal puncher. He is hands down the best puncher. In terms of just like line for line, punch. I'm not a big fan of that style. A lot of the time, sometimes I like it more than others. And he's definitely had some of the best punches I've ever heard in my entire life. But what's interesting, and the reason why I'm bringing him up, is he's a phenomenal puncher in a battle. Listen to him on wax, though. Different conversation. Because you can't write that way on wax. You can try to, but the difference between writing for a battle and writing for a beat is there's no beat in the battle, right? So you don't have to stick to a specific flow the whole time, right? You don't have to, you're not constrained by the beat. You're not constrained by music. So you can add extra words to a line and still make it flow because there's no beat to force you to flow in a certain kind of way. You know what I mean? You could try to force that onto a beat, but it's not going to go over well. It's not going to sound good. Which is why even Rum Nitty himself, the lord of all punchers, the lord, and I really mean that. Like, this nigga can punch like crazy, bruh. Like, I've heard some punches from this nigga, like he had a whole bar where he was talking about, oh, like, they're going to have to MOP your ante up. Like, what? But listen to his tracks. Yeah, he makes music too. Listen to his tracks. He's not punching like that on those tracks. You know why? Because it doesn't sound good like that on a track. It doesn't work as well on a track. It doesn't work as well when you have a beat behind you or underneath you. So that's why you can't equate the two art forms and be like, oh, well, I like this person's punches in the battle setting, even though they're not really known for music. And Rosenberg Raw has some music that I've heard, but he doesn't really have, even someone like a Loaded Lux has like albums and stuff you can find online with features and like, you know, mixtapes, albums, all that stuff. You can find it, right? But Rosenberg Raw, but even if you want to focus on someone else, right? Like King Los, right? King Los, who's known for like very complex bars and stuff like that. Like, you know, and I think he's good at what he does. It's not my forte. Like, it's not my taste per se. Like even Lupe stuff, like, you know, I fuck with, like I mentioned, I think I mentioned it before, like Food and Liquor, some of his earlier stuff, but there's certain projects of his and songs of his where I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, bro. like I'm legit just like, bro, I don't know what you're talking about. And I have a relatively complex rap style, right? Relatively complex. But I usually don't take it that far. At least I try not to. I used to do that more when I was younger, when I used to write. Like, you know, I would just kind of go on some crazy abstract cerebral shit. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's a style preference at the end of the day, right? If somebody prefers that style, then that's the style they fuck with. Like, if you listen to like Killer Priest, this nigga be talking about gremlins and goblins and you know, all sorts of like biblical references, Anunnaki, like all this wild shit he be talking about, and you know, and the niggas that fuck with it. There's nothing wrong with that. If you like that shit, listen to it. That's the beauty of any art form, right? You can find what makes sense for you, and you can have your argument for why you think that type of shit is the best, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I think all of those different styles ultimately, you know, benefit the art form because it creates more variety and diversity, which helps things to move forward, right? We can keep creating, keep progressing, keep mixing the different styles, and then mixing the different styles creates a new style. Mixing different genres makes a new style. Like it's beautiful. It's an amazing thing. However, like we have to be real and be like, yo, like, a lot of this is subjective, which is why I said if he was to just be like, yo, this is just the kind of rap style that I prefer. Kendrick doesn't do this as much as I would like, so that's why I don't rate him as high. And that's my subjective opinion. That's cool. That's cool. But if you're going to sit there being like, oh, I study rap objectively, and when I study rap objectively, it's punchlines that are at a premium or whatever he said, like what? That's not true. There's plenty of rap songs people can recite from beginning to end with little to no punchlines. Plenty. So you're gonna tell me that person isn't displaying lyricism because there's no punches? Right? All he had to say is, this is my preference, this is what I like. This person doesn't do it as much as I would like. I still think they're a great artist, but they just don't punch as much as I would like, so I rate them lower on the lyricism list. Right? I still disagree with that because I think your definition of lyricism is very, very limited. Like, it's very, very limited. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, there's no way you're telling me, I want to see if he mentioned Scarface in this video. Scarface alongside 8-Ball MJG when discussing his musical upbringing and influences. He explains that while people often compared his song Kick Push to the work of Tribe, his actual personal foundation and the music he grew up listening to are heavily rooted in the sounds of Scarface and 8-Ball and MJ. Eight-Ball and MJG, are they fucking punchline rappers? Is Nas a punchline rapper? No. And Nas is one of his biggest influences. Even though he tried, because I think he pigeonholed himself so badly to the point where now he has to try to discredit Nas or try to act like Nas isn't that lyrical. Like, what? It's Nas. Like, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? I didn't even like Nas's last album, but I know Nas is Nas. Like, what are we talking about? It's Nas. You want to talk about writing skill? Come on, bro. Your seamless raps, telling a story, making a point. Like, Nas? Come on, bro. What are we doing, bro? You can hate me now. I fucking hate that song. But Nas is Nas, bruh. Like, Nas is not. Like, we're not gonna say Nas isn't a top lyricist. That's crazy. That's crazy. So that's the main thing I wanted to focus on, right? Is like even his categorizations and the way in which he's talking about lyrics makes no sense. Is it fair to compare commercial artist lyricism to battle rappers? Here's the thing. Before I think Mickey was about to talk. Before I even let him talk, let me just say this real quick. Like, the comparison doesn't make sense. Like what I just said. Like, you can't compare the lyricism because they're not identical formats, right? They're different formats. The goal for a battle is very different than the goal for a song, right? Now, if you have a diss record, then the goal for a battle and the goal for a song meet in the middle. But that's only for a diss record. Or if you have a concept where it's like a battle, you know, where there's like a battle against yourself or whatever, right? Then that's where they merge, right? That's where they cross paths. But in battles, your main objective is to attack your opponent. And there's a billion different ways you can do that, right? You can attack your opponent by talking about yourself the whole time, right? You could be like, oh, this is why I'm the better rapper, and then just go on some crazy lyrical shit, and you know, sometimes that works. Rappers like Daylight do that, right? You can break your opponent down, right? Like, talk about what they're wearing, talk about, you know, their previous actions, whatever it is. But for a song, you can have that aspect, but then the ceiling is so much higher, right? Because you can make a song about anything, right? I could make a song about my fucking sweater, and if I write it intricately and project a message cool enough, You might not even know it's about a sweater. You might think it's about some person I love, but I'm just like, yo, I wrote about a sweater, but I just wrote it so intricately that you thought, like, you know, because what you can do is you can write it in a way where you treat the sweater like it's a person, right? Like, oh, you know, you make me comfortable, blah 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 blah. You could do some wild concept about a fucking sweater with a song, and it'll go. It can go if you choose the right beat and you write crazy, and people will fuck with it. Sometimes they might not even know it's about that. They might think it's about your mom's, you know? So I'm just like, so even trying to be like, oh, because it's like, how can you even compare? For someone that battles, primarily battles, they don't have songs. So you can't really compare them. And even if they have some records, like, they're not making albums like that. Like, some of them do. Some of them try to. And to be honest, when it comes to battle rappers, most of them aren't good at making albums. Like, you can find the best battle rapper and find me their album. I want someone to disprove me, though. I do want someone to disprove me. Maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe there's a Sue Surf album or a. I have listened to Daylight stuff. It's cool. Like, he has some songs I like, but, you know, I wouldn't put it up there with, like, a lot of the music I listen to, though. You know what I mean? In terms of, like, the beat quality and, like, you know, certain ways that they rap or whatever. So I feel like ultimately, like, he's on some bullshit, bruh. Like, he's on some bullshit. But anyways, let me let this nigga answer the question.
Floor, anybody.
So for me, I look at, so when Lupe says all stories have punchlines, you know, my brain automatically goes to, like, today was a good day. And is the title, right? Is the title a punchline?
So he's even made it worse for himself. So now he's trying to say stories have punchlines? Stan is a story record that has a punchline.
Doing it in that space as opposed to, you know, doing other.
There's no way I'm listening to this whole video.
Different techniques and things with lyricism and music.
1 second, pause.
Well, one example of a story record that is a punchline is Stan. It's set up to the reveal. Oh, it was me. That's the punchline. Right? And that is probably one of the...
And Kendrick doesn't have those? Kendrick doesn't have those? How many Kendrick songs can somebody name where there's a story? Kendrick literally has a story where there's a homeless nigga that's God. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing, bro? Come on, Lupe. Oh, you can have a story that's a punchline, but Kendrick doesn't hit those notes? That's almost all Kendrick does. Is it fair to compare commercial artists, Lupe based out? Okay, let me hear what other bullshit. Let me see. And then I'm gonna go to the Nas joint after this.
One of the most powerful and impactful hip hop story records of all time. Right? It's probably the quintessential hip hop rap story record.
Okay.
The whole story is about rap. It's about hip hop internally, and the subject matter, and it ends with the biggest punchline of kind of all time.
Okay.
Right.
What else?
In addition to inserting into hip hop, it's like bling bling. Stan. It introduced a vocabulary, a word into the vocabulary of hip hop that still persists to this day. To your question, Justin, can you ask the question again? So, because I was building an answer. Can you ask it again so I can make sure that my response is, like, correct?
Is it fair to judge a commercial rapper on his lyricism in comparison to a battle rapper, knowing that there's two different motivations, and perhaps we're not even seeing the commercial rapper's full lyrical spectrum through their commercial work?
If the commercial rapper challenges someone to a battle, then yes, you activate that piece. Also, if the commercial rapper starts to compare themselves to people who are also in the commercial space who also battle. So yes, you open yourself up to you can't.
Yeah, but that's only if you're battling, right? That's only if you're battling. Now, if a battle rapper only battles, right? And let's say they make some music on the side, but they primarily battle, right? And you're a music artist that primarily makes music, and then you might dabble in a battle here and there, right? That's kind of a dabble in a battle anyway. And you might dabble in a battle, right? Every now and again, right? All you can compare between these two people primarily is them in that battle. Now, if the industry rapper loses, he loses, which is most likely the chance. Battle rappers in a battle rap setting will more often than not beat the commercial rapper, or the rapper who not even just commercial rapper, just even an underground rapper. But as long as their primary task as a rapper is making music, they will 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, lose to a battle rapper. 9 to 10 times out of 10, they will lose to a battle rapper. But you can only judge that lyricism on that battle rapping plane because they're in a rap battle. Now, most battle rappers, even when they make music, most of them don't even like have albums. Some have mixtapes here and there. Some of the top guys have albums. You know what I mean? I know Math Hoffa had an album. Wasn't that good, to be honest. Loaded Lux has albums. I haven't really listened to a lot of them, but I know he has albums. Pretty sure Surf has albums. You know, a handful of the top people have albums. Geechee has albums. So they have albums, but if I'm being real, their albums don't measure up. 9 to 10 times out of 10. 9 to 10 times out of 10. Compare it to not even just the top, not even just people who are the most popular, the top of the industry in rap. Even an underground rapper that doesn't battle. You compare those catalogs, or even if they do battle a little bit, but if you could compare their catalogs, the actual musician rapper that makes music primarily, 9 to 10 times out of 10, they're going to win in that comparison. 9 to 10 times out of 10, they're going to win when you make that comparison. So I don't get the point he's making here.
You can't hide behind, if we want to call it that mainstream moniker. I'm limited by this, by that. If you start to challenge people to battles.
Well, yeah, if you start to challenge people, but even if you start to challenge people, your catalog you're still a better lyricist in music though, right? Because being a lyricist in music and being a lyricist in battle rap are not the same thing. Again, like I said, they can converge at times, right? They can merge at times. They can cross paths at times. If you're doing a diss record, right? If you're doing a diss record, but that's only if you're doing a diss record, right? And even if you're doing a diss record, most of the time, the rapper who's the industry guy on a track will do better than the battle rapper who primarily doesn't make music on tracks, or they only sometimes do battles on tracks. It's becoming more of a thing now. Like I mean, shit, perfect example. The only few videos I even have on my fucking channel that I don't use, which is this one, is J Mills versus Goods. J Mills washed Goods but that's on a beat though. If they were to have a battle, URL stage, New York, you could even do it do it in Harlem. I'm pretty sure they're both from Harlem. Do it in Harlem. J Mills will probably lose the battle, in my opinion. He'll probably lose the battle. He's gotten better. He's gotten better with just acapella rap battles at this point, but he'll probably lose the battle. Like Goods, that's his element. You know, that's his element. But on Wax, we saw what happened. J Mills washed him. And it's not just about punchlines. It's about rap ability. He had some punches. J Mills has some good punches, but it wasn't just about punches. He was just rapping better. You can go watch my video. It's like night and day when you listen to their tracks. When you hear J Mills, he's in the pocket. Goods. he did better on one of the tracks, I think, but it's not. It's like passable, but it's not good, man. It's not good. Nobody's letting that rock in the stew. Not in the studio, man. Ain't no way. Someone, if I had a friend that sent me that, I would give them constructive criticism. I'd be like, you have some lines here and there, but you got to work on your vocal control. You got to work on this, that, and the third, right? This line was awkward, whatever it is. There's just certain things that come with making music that if you don't make music enough or you don't focus on it enough, you'll miss the mark completely. And that happens to a lot of not just rappers, but musicians, period. Right? There's a lot of mediocre music in the world, right? A lot of mediocre music. So with that said, it's like, we have to, like, this doesn't make sense. Like, it's like comparing Styles P to Edgar Allan Poe. You know what I mean? Or like someone that's a poet. It's like you can't compare a rapper's kind of lyricism to a poet. Like you can compare it in the literal sense. Like you can sit down and be like, oh well, this person is doing more of this and more of that. But because the formats are so different, what is accepted and appreciated in those different spaces is different, right? That doesn't mean there can't be crossover, right? Obviously, rap has a lot of poetic aspects, but if I'm writing a poem to read in front of a group of people, or whether I've memorized it, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna write it like it's a rap verse, right? I'm not gonna have like a set rap flow in the same way. I might have a flow, but it's not gonna be like on a beat type of flow. It'll be a different type of like cadence, right? Like you hear people when they do poetry, it's different. So if you're gonna try to compare those two, without understanding that, yeah, these comparisons are very shaky. Like I can respect that. I can respect someone being like, I'm going to make these comparisons, but it's shaky, but I'm just doing this as like a mental exercise. I can respect that. That's cool. I would appreciate that. That would be fun, actually. That's something I would do for fun. Just to be like, I just want to compare these two writers in these different fields. But if we're talking about lyricism in the hip hop sense, the music lyricism and the battle rap lyricism, come on. They're not the same.
These different things, I feel like every song can take the same blood test.
And Lupe knows that. I'm gonna hear what he says about that.
That's so important to me.
That's what's up. One second, applause. I like this comment right here. This super chat from Leo the Lion says, Nas doesn't have great punchlines, so is he not lyrical? What about other literary devices? I remember Lou praising Blue back in the day. He also isn't a punchline heavy MC. How can we reconcile this? Open floor.
So in terms of like, if you compare Nas to, if you remove, like again, for me, remove the beat, remove everything else, and just go with the words. If you threw Nas into, and you created the list of just people who rap, which is a big list. There's hundreds of thousands of rappers. And you remove all that, he wouldn't rank high. I wouldn't rank high. That doesn't mean we're not lyricists in our space. But when you isolate it to that, just that fundamental part, a lot of people don't rank high.
Do I even need to explain why this is a stupid point? Right? That's like someone being like, Jordan was nice, but if you remove Pippen, if you remove Rodman, you removed the coach, if you remove the Gatorade, if you remove the court, that nigga not that nice. like what? What are we doing? This is the worst kind of argument. When people start doing shit like this, just end the conversation. When people start doing stuff like, you know what I mean? Oh, like, that's like being like, oh, Usain Bolt, he wouldn't be nice if he wasn't fast, he wouldn't be nice though. It's like, what? If he was running on ice, he wouldn't be nice. Bar. If he was running on molten lava, he wouldn't be nice. Like, what do I look? Let me calm down. Cause bro, like, it's like, I know Lupe is smarter than this. This is what's pissing me off, man. It seems like he's reached a point where he's just trying to justify. He's just saying shit to say shit to like protect himself. But it's like you're not thinking this through, my nigga. Like you're not thinking this through at all. What do you mean if I remove the beat? Like the beat is what you're rapping on. So obviously you need that to be a good rapper. Or else it wouldn't be fucking rap. It would be battle rap or poetry, a cappella. In which case, if you were preparing yourself to write in that format, you're not going to write exactly what you wrote for the beat. You're going to write something else in a different style, in a different way. And you're going to adapt to the format. That's what makes it what it is, right? So you can't say, oh, if you remove the beat. And it's also a lie. It's not true. I can remove the beat for a lot of Nas songs. Ether? You're telling me if I remove the beat for Ether, it's still not Ether? Come on. Just off of the strength of what he was saying? It ain't hard to tell. Just off of the strength of what he was saying. You're telling me, like, come on, Lupe. Even his own shit. This nigga put himself in such a hole that he's even attempting to discredit himself to sell bullshit. This nigga said, yeah, even me. Even me. I'm like, come on, my nigga. You removed the beat for kick push. How you gonna throw yourself under the bus to protect yourself? Like, what are we doing, bro?
That doesn't mean we're not lyricists in our space. But when you isolate,
but yeah, you are lyricists in your space. You're not isolated. So you talking about all this hypothetical situation and this made up planet where, you know what I mean? Where there's no beat and you're just analyzing the lyrics with no beat. That doesn't exist because this is hip hop. This is rap. And when we're talking about rap, being a rapper, not a battle rapper, a rapper, making music is kind of one of the prerequisites, or at least rapping over music is kind of one of the prerequisites, right? To be like a true rapper and to be a true lyricist in the hip hop space, right? That's like me being like, oh, this person's a good author, you know, but if I took the pen and the pad away from them, they wouldn't be that nice. It's like, what? If I took the ball from Jordan and I popped it, he can't beat me. Yeah, because you're not playing basketball anymore, idiot.
to that, just that fundamental part, a lot of people don't rank high.
How's nobody? How's nobody countering this point? I would be going crazy sitting on the panel. I would be going crazy. Crazy. I'd be like, Lupe, you and I both know this hypothetical world you're creating to make your point is not reality. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So your point is invalid. It's false. It's false. Oh, if humans didn't have food, they wouldn't be shit. It's like, yeah, nigga, that's what makes. Like, come on, Lupe. Like, this is some bullshit, bro. This is some bullshit.
You know, it doesn't take away from. Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you, nigga. We just. Oh shit. Yo, everyone's dead silent because they know this is bullshit. But they're not saying nothing. They're not saying nothing. I would be like, yo, bro, like, I heard, like, that's why they're not saying nothing, because they're just like, bro, this is some bullshit. But they should have said it though. That's why I'm not happy with some of the parts of this interview. Is like, you know, it's like you don't even have to be mean about it. You don't even have to you don't have to insult him. It doesn't have to be, you know, what happened with Quality and him. That was a whole different situation, right? That was like they started off hot. Lupe is going crazy in the chat, whatever, hopped in. I didn't even watch the whole thing. I watched like clips of it. I don't have time to watch all that. But you've already set up enough of a good enough environment here to where he's sharing a good amount of information. So question him. I would have been like, okay, so based on what you're saying, like, I don't think that makes sense because, you know, obviously what makes you and what makes Nas and whoever is the fact that you're rapping on a beat. So we can make up a hypothetical situation where your lyricism isn't as good because there's no beat. But what makes your lyricism good on a beat is the fact that you're on a beat. That's the whole point of rap. Music. So
yeah, I'm just confused on why you said you wouldn't rank high.
It doesn't take. I'm saying because I know beasts, like people who all they do is punchlines, similes on top.
Like this, like, yeah, and those people aren't as good as you. Those people aren't as good in what we're talking about, which is lyricism in the context of rap music. Kendrick Lamar is a lyricist in rap music. And you're now comparing him to people outside of that while simultaneously saying you can't compare people unless they leave that space to enter this space. So that's already a contradiction. And then now you're like, oh, also if you take the beat out of it, even I'm not that nice. Like, come.
Andres all day, right? And I also know that I'm really high, but I also know there's thousands, right? And we haven't done a count. We haven't done a survey. We haven't done a proper summary. This
is kind of some fake humbleness he's trying to do here, right? Because he thinks, oh, right, if I put myself in that category where Nas is at, which is lower than where he should be, based on this conversation and based on this ridiculous hypothetical reality I've created to justify whatever bullshit that I said that didn't make any sense, based on the narrow definition of lyricism I made that doesn't make any sense. If I put myself down there too, you know, there's thousands better. Like, what are you talking about, brother? Come on, dog. Like this
years ago, we might do it in the future if things
bro,
like this
I would have pressed this nigga so hard, bro. Respectfully, I would have pressed him. I would have been like I almost said Kanye. Which says a lot, right? The fact that I almost said Kanye says a lot about what this conversation is looking like right now.
More people are get interested in that to really see how many rappers are there in the world. I reached out to Spotify, I reached out to SoundCloud, and tried to get a list,
yeah, and most of those rappers aren't good. I promise you. I'm a rapper. I've done many shows. I've listened to plenty of rap music. I'm also a producer, so people have sent me their music. People send me their music. The amount of people that I would consider genuinely fire is a small percentage. There's people that are decent, you know? People that are mid, there's people that are decent, pretty good. I would say that occupies most rappers. There's a lot of people that are trash, right? That's most rappers are between pretty good and trash. Most rappers are somewhere in there. I would argue 99% of rappers, or maybe 95. I'll be generous. 95. I'm just making numbers up anyway. 95%, right? So if we say that's 95%, I would say it's only 5% that are good to phenomenal. I would say it's a very small percentage of rappers around the world, and I'll stand on that. And I've heard a lot of rap. Like too much rap. So, which is why I'm very critical of rap, because I want rap to be at a high standard. I want it to be at a high standard, and I think that's the bar we need to have so that our art form can progress, right? And can continue to do great things, which it already has, right? Which includes shit he's done. And now he's gonna sit here talking about, oh, you removed the beat. Like, nigga, what?
Some of that is like proprietary information and is private. Just to get a count of how many rap.
Basically, he has to create such an abstract definition of lyricism. And now he's creating such an abstract definition of even what rap music is that doesn't exist, right? You have to create a world. If you have to create a world that doesn't exist to prove your point, you already lost.
Rappers there are in the world, and out of that, how many are in this genre? How many do this? How many do that? And you can sit and test skill. It'll take some time, but it doesn't take away from Nas as a lyricist at all, because he's Nas. Like, that's crazy. But if you start to is when you compare him to just like punches, the guy said it himself, Nas don't have a lot of punches.
Yeah, because punches aren't that important. Or, okay, let me rephrase that. Punches aren't more important than other things, right? You could have no punches and have an amazing song. Even if you want to add in the whole thing about stories being punches, which I won't even dig into that, because that'll be a whole other 2 hours. So even if you want to say that, even if you want to keep the story punchline thing in there as well, right? Which Kendrick does. Which he does. But even if you want to keep that in there, like, I don't even need to say it, bro. Like,
right, he don't have a lot of like bars like that.
Because bars aren't just punchlines, my nigga. With that being said, Big L should be your favorite rapper. Ransom. Who else? Cassidy should be your favorite rapper, Lupe. More than Nas. Or at least he should be your favorite lyricist, right? Based on your ridiculous description of what a lyricist is.
Compared to like a Chino XL IT, which is all bars. So if you're rating it on bars, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, Chino XL. If you're rating it on that chill, are they both lyricists? Yeah, because again, we kind of defined as a unit. Everybody has pieces of these. Like even to kind of BK's
No. You didn't define as a unit. People gave their own descriptions of what lyricism is, and you gave yours. Yours contradicted theirs because it's not identical. They're not even similar descriptions. You focused on punchlines and entendres. Mickey Factz brought up a bunch of other shit. I didn't see hers, but I would almost guarantee she brought up a bunch of other shit that wasn't just punches and entendres. I promise you. So,
about feeling. And me and Mickey, we talked about this yesterday, like feeling, right? Like everything has feeling.
Okay.
You're not going to escape feeling. You're not going to find a feelingless word. Everybody's going to feel. That comes along for the ride. So that's kind of like a given, right? How intentional you are with the vocabulary choice and the word use or whatever to exaggerate certain feelings or compress certain feelings or say things in a certain way to remove the feeling or dampen the feeling or project it into different space. The whole game is negotiating feeling. Language is negotiating feeling in a certain way, right? So you're going to get that, like, regardless.
I think you're just talking.
It becomes like, if we're going to focus on who has a mastery of feeling, right? Then that's a whole other conversation. Like,
it's not a whole other conversation. That's deeply intertwined into the conversation of lyricism, right? Even though I don't love the dictionary definition of lyricism because I think it's limited and it doesn't have some of the other components, and a lot of people have been quoting that, which is the whole thing about feeling, but that's still just one aspect of it, right? That's still just one aspect. I don't think every rap song has to make me feel in terms of like, you know, them talking about something deep or whatever. Like I can listen to a song that's just all random punchlines. If the beat is fire and the bars are fire, I can fuck with it. Because then the feel I'm getting isn't from the content per se. It's not about what they're talking about. The feeling I'm getting is from appreciating their ability to use the different literary devices in rap. Because there's beauty in that, right? Which is why I can enjoy a super lyrical rapper in the sense of, you know, the limited, narrow sense of what Lupe is describing, right? Just like quote unquote bars and punches or whatever. I can appreciate that. They don't even have to feel like, and that's different for everybody, right? But it doesn't even have to be on some emotional shit. I don't need that. Aggression is an emotion too. So it doesn't need to be aggressive. It doesn't need to be sad. They don't need to be happy. They could just be getting some bars off and I can fuck with it. If the beat is fire and the bars are fire, shit. But then I also like the other shit. And then I also like everything in between that mixes the two together. That's where I try to sit even with my own music. I try to have like I love rap. I love punchlines. I love all of that stuff. I love storytelling. So I mix that, and then I also have, you know, stuff that's just me getting my shit off in terms of like how I feel about things, what I think about things, and all of those different things combine to be lyricism.
Best. And you can have that with or without bars. You know, but you know, if the talk is like punches and bars, if the target punches and bars, it's like, yeah, we all know Nas ain't got bars like that. He knows that.
That's only if you use your definition of bars, my nigga. Only if you're talking about similes and entendres. That isn't all of what makes up bars. Why are there people that can recite entire Nas songs if it was just about punchlines only? Right? So those aren't bars? Of course they are. Shit, even in battle rap, I've seen rounds where they didn't have punchlines and the crowd was going crazy because they were saying some real shit. They weren't reacting the same. The reactions weren't, oh, it was more so like, ooh, right? But that's a reaction. That's a big deal. To make someone feel like, you know, some spine chilling shit just happened. Like that's a skill, you know? And it doesn't have to be a punchline. It could just be you saying some shit. You know what I mean? You're just saying some shit straight up and making it rhyme. It doesn't even have to rhyme sometimes. Sometimes niggas just be saying shit. Like, you know, even on songs, you'll hear bars where niggas ain't rhyming. And that shit'll be hard depending on what they said.
I like how you explained that kind of. I can hear.
No, I don't like how I explained it. Okay, let's see.
I have yet to meet a rapper who doesn't talk like this. Right? What? And I have yet to meet an audience member who doesn't say what you just said. Like, it's just about the feeling. Like, we need to know how to make we need to know how the sausage is made because we make the sausage. You just need
I'm gonna leave that alone.
To know how to cook it, right? And how to enjoy it and experience it. But we're in the factory. And when you're in a factory at a certain point, you get past how it makes you feel, and you try and like, at least from my experience, and I know this is true because I teach it, right? I look at my students' work, I see how they work, we talk about the work, they have to explain their work, they have to do annotations, they have to explain what they do, why they did it, what was the effect, what they could have done better, even with their negative space, even that they choose negative space versus putting a word there, and what are the pros and cons of that. So it's a constant negotiation with the work to get to a certain place. So I've yet to meet a rapper who doesn't think like that.
Yeah, I definitely hear most.
Are there 100 battle rappers better than you, Mickey?
No.
Are there 100 battle rappers better than you, Lupe?
There's about like 18.
I say
not 100.
This is not 100. So, but I say no. And again, this is not meant to kind of like to diminish what they do, because again, like I said previously, what they do is extreme high level under extreme pressure due to a lot of the things that go along with it. But they've mastered punchline. and entendre. That's something that they have mastered, right?
But that's all they've mastered, or at least most of what they've mastered. But what about everything else? What about storytelling, right? What about just being direct and just saying how you feel? All right, have they mastered that? Some have. But then they've also mastered that in a completely different format and setting from making music, which comes with different dimensions. There's different things you need to take into account, right? I'm not writing bars. When I write music, I'm not writing bars to yell in a room that's poorly mic'd, where I got a fucking, what do they call them? Lavalier mic on my fucking collar. If I'm writing for that, I'm not writing the way I write for the tracks I make. I'm writing in a completely different way. I'm writing to make sure I'm more aggressive. I'm writing to make sure, I make somebody look bad and I make myself look good. That's the whole point of a battle in a battle rap setting. Even on a track, similarly, but even on a track, battling versus battling a cappella, it's different. It's different. You got to consider different things. You still have to make it listenable from a musical standpoint. It at least has to be serviceable. You know what I mean? So anyway, I think I've gotten my point across, but yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it at that for now. I don't really want to break down, like I said, I don't care about all the psychological shit. Like I feel like a lot of us are bringing up all this psychological stuff about, like he's jealous, he's whatever. He might be, he might not be. I don't know. I don't care. All I care about is facts. If you're gonna share your opinion, because here's the thing, I can't prove how he feels about anybody, right? I can't prove if something happened behind the scenes that we don't know about, and he's salty about it. I can't prove if he's just like this with everybody. I don't know him personally. I probably will never meet him personally, right? So, and even if I did, I'm not gonna ask him that. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be like, yo, so Lupe, like, so why is it that you keep saying this about Kendrick? Like I don't know that nigga. I don't know Kendrick personally. I don't know him personally. But what I do know is music. And if we're talking about music, if you're gonna say, X amount of people are better than this person lyrically, right? Because he didn't say they're better artists. He just said lyrically. And then your definition of lyrics and lyricism is bars and entendres, or punch. And when he says bars, he really means punchlines. It's punchlines and entendres. I'm like, come on, dog. That's not lyricism in and of itself. It's one aspect of lyricism, but it's not lyricism in and of itself. So no, I'm not letting that slide. But anyways, man, that's my reaction to this whole fiasco and situation, and I'm not happy about it, because it's like, bruh, like I said, I fuck with Lupe, man. I fuck with Lupe musically, at least, like earlier, especially his earlier stuff. Like later on, it was kind of hit or miss for me on a lot of the projects. Like I like a handful of songs here and there, whatever. But like I said, sometimes even with his lyrics, sometimes I get lost in the sauce. I'm like, bro, I don't know what you're even talking about on this joint, because like he's trying to be so cerebral, which is dope. Like I think that has a place. It has its place in hip hop, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody being cerebral or whatever. But it's like, then do that, and then say that's what you love, and just do that, and that's why you rate certain things a certain way. But at least make it make sense, right? And even Lupe himself, Kick Push, there's no punchlines on there. Unless he's trying to argue the whole storytelling is punchlines thing, which I said is a whole conversation for another time. But outside of that, like, nah, bruh. No punchlines there. Not that many, at least. Like, maybe a few bars I can maybe think of, but not really. So it's like, bro, like, what are you even talking about at this point? So I feel like, yeah, he's pigeonholed himself. He's trying to like justify some ridiculous things that he said that are kind of questionable. But like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and try to break the man down. Like I don't know the nigga. You know what I mean? So I don't know if he's jealous. I don't know what it is. I don't even care to know what it is, to be honest with you. The only time I would care is if they got if Kendrick and Lupe had a rap beef, which I would love to see, by the way. That would be fire. That'd be fire. I remember Flex over at Flex Mob was saying like, yeah, that shit would be like some Dragon Ball Z shit where you can't even see niggas, and it's just, you know what I mean? Like, on God, it would be like that. So I feel like, generally speaking, like, you know, that's that would be fire. But I don't think it's gonna happen because I don't think Kendrick needs this. Like, I don't think he needs this. And Lupe's he's not helping himself. He's making himself look bad. He's making weird points. If Lupe just said, you know, I respect Kendrick as an artist, but I want to see what he can do bar for bar with me or with X rapper in this type of setting on some hip hop shit, that would have been fire. That would have been fire, man. But once you start adding extra shit, and because that's the thing, the only argument, which I really don't think he's doing this, but the only thing, a theory a person might be able to think of is, oh, he's just saying this so Kendrick comes outside. But I don't think that's what it is, though. I don't think that's what it is. I really don't think that's what it is. I feel like either something happened behind the scenes or something, you know what I mean? Like I said, I don't care to know. Maybe he is jealous. Maybe he's not jealous. I don't fucking care. You know what I mean? Because it's speculation. I don't like speculation. Anybody that knows me knows I don't like speculation, right? The only time I speculate is for fun. If I'm just sitting down like shooting the shit with some friends or whatever, you know what I mean? And we're just coming up with wild shit just to laugh, but we don't really believe any of it. That's fun, right? But if we're being serious, which this is a serious topic, right? We're talking about hip hop culture, lyricism. Like, that's stuff I take very seriously as an artist. So if that's what we're talking about, then, right? Like, then it's important. So anyways, I'm gonna leave it be, man. NK Archaic, bro. Like, this shit, yeah, man, this shit disappointing. But it is what it is.